A very good morning to you. Welcome. This is the Breakfast Show, and I am your host, Lillian Thomas. I hope you've been well. We've been well on this side. We are very sorry for starting late. We've been having a little bit of technical challenges with our sound right here in the studio, but everything is sorted for now. So we are having our breakfast show as usual. We hope that we don't have any other challenges within the show. How are you doing this morning? How fantastic are you? How did your week start yesterday? What are you getting to doing today? Over the last, I think, like 4 days, we've been having a discussion on tomato farming. So we started our discussion on Wednesday and we are wrapping it up today. It is coming to a wrap. And then tomorrow we'll be getting into something totally different from this. So on Wednesday, we looked at production of tomatoes, so tomato farming in general, the general production. On Thursday, we looked at something on the pests and the pests affecting tomatoes. And then on Friday, we started on the diseases, which has been quite lengthy. So we did the diseases on Friday, yesterday, and then we are wrapping up today. And today, we only have like two diseases left. And then someone had asked me something about the tomato leaf miner. So we'll just cover the two diseases we have left and just look at what the tomato leaf miner is, what tuta absoluta is, what we can do to control it. That will be our discussion today. So, if you are watching us for the first time, kindly follow our pages. On Facebook, we are at Afarmers. On YouTube, we are at Afarmers Media. Follow our pages on Facebook and on YouTube. Subscribe to our page and hit the notification bell as well. Every time we go live, every time we upload a video, just as we're doing right now, you will always be notified when you hit the notification bell. So make sure you do. And you can keep engaging me in the conversation, in the discussion. Leave your comments on our Facebook page at Our Farmers, on YouTube at Our Farmers Media. I'll be sampling your comments in the second part of the show. Yesterday, I know I failed to read some comments. Akina Tijani. I saw you guys watched the show, and we are glad that you guys watched the show. I'm sorry I didn't read your comments, but today I'll try and make sure I read everybody's comments and everybody's feedback. So today we will be talking about bacterial spots and anthracnose and just cover a little bit of tuta absoluta. And that is what we'll be discussing today. So if you have any questions, you have any comments, you have any remarks concerning the show, write it on our comment section on YouTube, on Facebook at Our Farmers, on YouTube at Our Farmers Media. Kindly tell me where you're watching the show from. I would really love to know. Yesterday, I had a lot of people watching me from Nigeria. Today, I don't know, my Kenyan people, what wangu wa 254. Hello, are you watching the show? Just tell me no. Sawa sawa? Yes. And just before I start on the discussion, I would like to remind us we still have COVID around. So if you are getting out of the house, you are going to a public place, make sure you're putting on your mask, and your mask should cover your nose and your mouth, okay? Make sure you're washing your hands regularly and you are sanitizing whenever possible. On another note, make sure you are keeping social distance whenever you are in public places, whether it is in a matatu, in a gathering. Actually, avoid gatherings. You should not even be attending any gatherings right now. And if you have no other business going outside to do, just stay in the house. That will make it simpler for you. So I want us to get into our discussion today. Yesterday, we covered several diseases. We looked at tomato mosaic virus. We looked at bacterial wilt. We did a lot of diseases, the late blight, and it was a very interesting discussion. So today, we are looking at bacterial spots and anthracnose. So I think Sarah will be getting the images ready for you so that you can see what we were discussing about. And one Tony Hillary Tonista on Thursday asked me, what causes bacterial spot and speck? So Tony Hillary Tonista. Yes, I hope you're watching the show. Today we are covering something on bacterial spot and speck, and even we wrap up on anthracnose, and then we look at a little bit about tuta absoluta. By the way, just I'm thinking if you are watching the show and you have information concerning tuta absoluta or the tomato leaf miner, you can let me know. You can let me know in my comments section. I can see how we can engage you as we continue with the show. Just let me know. If you have information about it, maybe you've dealt with it in your farm, maybe you are actually a researcher researching on it, you can let me know. Or rather, you can tag for me people who would be having information concerning these particular pests. And maybe we can engage them in another discussion, making sure that you guys get the information that you need to be getting. Okay? Oh yeah, and I forgot. This the quote of the day will be coming the second part of the show, so make sure you're staying tuned in for that. As always, I always have a brilliant thing to start your day, so just stay tuned in for that. Just let's get into our discussion today. So today we are talking about bacterial spot and speck, and then we'll be looking at anthracnose, and then we'll be wrapping up with the tomato leaf miner, and then generally we'll just look at how you can manage your field in order to make sure that you don't have these pests and diseases. So it's more of a preventive measure we will be looking at the end of the show. But you can keep me engaged on Facebook at Afarmers. On YouTube, we are at Afarmers Media. So make sure you are tapping something on my comment section. You can as well let me know where you're watching the show from. So the bacterial spot and spock. Bacterial spot and speck. So this was asked by Tony Hillary Tonista, but it is a disease affecting most tomato farmers. So we'll just look at it. And I hope, Tony, you are answered your question. So Tony asked me what causes the bacteria, what causes the disease. So bacterial spot and speck, this is a bacterial disease, just as the name suggests, bacterial spot and speck. It is a bacterial disease. It is caused by a bacteria. If that is what you are asking, it is caused by a bacteria. I don't think the name of the bacteria will do much to most farmers. I always say two hard terms. I don't really need to be pronouncing them for you. But it is caused by a bacteria, and it is very common, especially right now during the rainy season. It is a fungal infection. So it is a fungal infection. It is caused by a bacteria. Fungal infections are very common during the rainy season and are favored by warm and moist environments. So most probably right now you will find a lot of farmers having this disease in their farm because it has been the rainy season and these conditions actually favor the this disease. It is favored by rainy season, warm and moist environments. I hope that is clear, okay? It is mostly found, the bacteria itself survives in seeds, in plant debris, and in weeds. It survives in seeds, plant debris, and weeds. So you might plant actually seeds that are already contaminated by these particular disease. Or rather, you might be having plant debris in your farm, like maybe crops that were growing and then you took them back to the soil and they would have been contaminated by this disease. You'll have this disease in your farm. And sometimes we have weeds that actually have this disease. Actually, most of the Solanaceae plants are affected by this disease. I will mention again for you the Solanaceae plants that are most likely to be affected by this disease. We have the tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants. Eggplants are also called brinjals. And then we have the African nightshade, or rather the black nightshade, depending on where you come from and what you refer to it as. In Kenya, we call it commonly managu. That is what we refer to it as. These are crops that mostly have this disease. So if by any chance you have any of this crop among your tomato plants, you might have chances of this disease in your farm. Okay? So you can just be very careful because we've said it actually survives in seeds, plant debris, and in weeds. We will be looking at how you can manage that when we are looking at the control measures. This disease actually, it's a very funny disease. It can cause you an entire loss of your tomato crops, like completely entire loss. But weirdly enough, it doesn't survive for long. It is not like when you look at pests like the Tita absoluta that we'll be looking at that actually multiply very fast and survive a lot. For like it has a lot of generations within its period. This particular disease has limited survival. But its spread is accelerated by rain and overhead irrigation. That's why we said it is very common during the rainy season. You find because it's a fungal infection. You remember the thing I said about fungal infections on Friday? They are reproduced by means of spores. Spores are really tiny, tiny, tiny things. So the moment they are on a certain plant and it rains, actually the water splash causes them to disperse, and they disperse landing on other leaves and other plants. And that's how they are spread. That's why we say they are spread more by rain and by overhead irrigation. We'll just get into the control of it and then we will see what we always say about all these things. And you find it enters, we said it is mostly found in the seed, or the plant debris, or the weeds. But if you didn't have it in the seeds and it's actually being contaminated from either the plant debris or from the weeds, you find that it gets into your plant if you have wounds in your plant. If you have wounds in your plant or injuries in your plant, it gives them an entry medium for them to come into your plant. Also, it can get in through the leaf pores. So, for some reason, through the leaf pores, you can't really regulate it, but through wounds, you can actually regulate it. And we'll also be looking at that in the control measures. It is difficult to control. I'll be very honest with you. Once it is in your field, it is very, very difficult to control. That's why I have been giving you preventive measures, preventive control of the diseases just before they even get into your farm. It's better. We always say prevention is better than cure. You don't want to be making losses and then now we want to look for remedy when it is already established in your field. So prevention is better than cure. We will be looking at preventive control measures because the moment this disease is in your field, honestly, it is very hard to control. Very, very hard. On a scale of 0 to 10, no, 1 to 10, 0 to 10 doesn't make sense. Okay, 1 to 10, on a scale of 1 to 10, the control is hard. It doesn't even go beyond 5. It doesn't. So that is more than half the loss. We don't want to make you to make half the loss. So make sure you are saying right here, even as we get into the control measures, how do you identify this particular disease or what is its effect on either the fruits or the leaves of the tomato plant? On the fruits, you find especially it attacks the green fruits. So you find on the green fruit, it causes a spot. It causes spots on the fruit. So you have your fruit right here, and then it causes spots. If you know what spots is, it's like having like a small dot, a patch somewhere in your fruit. So it causes small spots, and these spots are very small, and they usually appear water soaked. By water soaked, I mean they appear. It's like they have water inside them. Okay, so initially they are very small, and then after a while they enlarge kidogo, zinaongeza size, they enlarge kidogo, they increase in size. Yeah, that is what enlarging is. They increase in size to around 6 millimeters, so not a really big size, but they increase in size after a while. So they start by looking very small, and then they appear like they have water inside, and then after a while they increase in size. As it actually develops even more, you find that these spots actually turn to brown, and then they look like it is a scab. A scab, you see, like when you've hurt yourself, and then there's a skin that develops on top of where you've hurt yourself, okay? You see that hard skin, it is called a scab. So on these tomato plants, now imagine a similar scenario. Now on a fruit, these spots actually after a while, after they've developed more of, after they've matured, they actually turn to brown, and then they turn to brown and then form like akahad ka pigment hapo juu, akahad ka pigment on that spot, and then it looks like it's a scab, but it doesn't get into the fruit. So you find your actually tomato fruit ikona, it has spots all over the place which look brownish, and they look rough. A scab is usually rough, so they look rough, they are hard, but it doesn't extend into the fruit. That is how you can actually identify it on your fruits. But on the leaves, It causes spots again. The same thing. It causes a spot on the leaf. So the spot is dark, usually dark, so like brown, and then it is encircled by a yellow outer ring. So a yellow cover. We call it a yellow halo. Let me call it a yellow outer ring cover for you to understand. So it is a dark brown spot covered by a yellow cover outer ring. That's how you identify it on the leaves and also on the seed fruits as well. That's how you can identify a bacterial spot. Sarah can see if she can find an image for you that you can actually be looking at. Yes. If she finds one, she'll be putting it up on the screen and then you can be able. Okay, Sarah has put up an image on the screen of the bacterial spot. So this disease, told you, it thrives on warm and moist environments. So you find at temperatures between 25 to 30, it is very high. Its rate is very high at temperatures between 25 to 30. You remember when I started on tomato production, I told you tomatoes do well in temperatures between 21 to 24. By the time you're getting to 27 degrees, you are actually having damage on your tomatoes because you have low fruit set. You'll be having few fruits in your farm and it causes more harm. You're getting less yields, low productivity. Now you find that if you've listened to our discussions very well, you find that most of these diseases actually between the temperatures 25 to 30 degrees Celsius, you find that most diseases tend to be high at this rate. So make sure you are controlling the temperatures you have, whether it is in your greenhouse or in your field. Make sure if you can manage to be stay in a place where you are between temperatures 21 to 24, they don't exceed that, the better. But if you can't, if you are managing your tomatoes in a greenhouse, make sure you maintain the temperatures between 21 to 24. Don't exceed that because the moment you exceed that, you'll be having more of these diseases in your farm. So I want us to get into the control measure of this particular disease and what you can actually do. I said my control measures are more of organic control measures, and they are actually, most of them are preventive measures. So they are things you should be doing even before you have this disease established in your farm. Okay, to control the bacterial spot and speck, if you realize we said it is seed-borne, you can find it in your seeds or in the plant debris, or sometimes it does occur in weeds. So if you are to control this disease, we are going to be looking at these three things. So for seeds, the first thing you can do is use certified disease-free seeds. Make sure the seeds that you're using are certified and they are disease-free. Ensure you buy seeds. I always keep telling people, stop using seeds that you don't know where you have obtained them from, that you're not sure if they are disease free. If you can, just get to an agrovet, buy your seeds that are disease free, that you have no risk with, especially with diseases. So buy disease free seeds that are certified and use them to plant your tomatoes. And if you can find a place where they actually sell resistant varieties, okay, as at now, I don't know one of the resistant varieties, but if I find one, I'll let you know. But if you can find resistant varieties, can you actually grow them? They are better. They help to control that. If you can find grow plant resistant varieties. So that is it about the seeds. About the plant debris, make sure every time you are harvesting, even like previously maybe you were growing tomatoes, the moment you harvest, make sure you destroy everything from your crop, like literally uproot everything including your roots. If possible, burn them, get rid of them from your farm. You should not be having any plant remains in your farm as you start your tomato farming. Make sure everything is destroyed the moment you've harvested. Any previous crop you harvest, make sure you destroy it even before you start your tomato farming. And then for the weeds, We actually always say make sure you maintain a weed free field, very clean field. We keep talking about field sanitation. We need a very clean field, very clean, like very clean, spotless. If someone is looking at your field, all they can see from this point to the other end, I am plainly looking at tomato plants, nothing else growing. And that brings me to a point whereby sometimes you have your tomatoes are growing, and then you have an eggplant pops up somewhere in the middle of your field. If it pops up in the middle of your field, that is a weed, because initially you were growing tomatoes. Anything growing that wasn't intended to be grown there is a weed. So if anything pops up, like it's more of, let me call them volunteer crops, they just decide to grow. The eggplant, most so crops in the Solanaceae family, the eggplants, the tomato, the potatoes, or the nightshade. If they decided to pop up in your field, make sure you destroy them, you get rid of them from your farm, because they can harbor for you this particular disease. Remember, this disease mostly affects plants in the Solanaceae family. So if you have any of them growing in your field, make sure you actually get rid of them. And we always say if you find a plant that is infected in your field, destroy it. Destroy it. I'm not even talking about destroying like half a plant, just destroy it. Either you burn it or uproot it and get rid of it from your farm. Remember, I said something when we were starting, when I was explaining about how it is spread, and I said sometimes it is spread through wounds or injuries on the tomato plant. So ensure whenever you are handling your plants, more so the transplants, because you find this disease actually gets into the plant at the nursery and before even transplanting it to the field. Ensure when you are handling your plants in the field, you are being very careful. You are not harming your transplants. You are not injuring your transplants. You don't want to be providing a medium for diseases to get into your farm. So ensure whenever you are handling your plants, you are being very careful and you're not injuring or damaging your plants. I also mentioned that this disease is spread more by rain and by overhead irrigation. What is the solution? Stop using overhead irrigation. Avoid, abstain from using sprinkler irrigation or overhead irrigation, because when you do, you are dispersing the spores, you are spreading the disease in your farm. Stop using overhead irrigation. And then for because it is spread mainly when the plants are wet and by wet conditions favor them. When you are working on your farm, ensure you're working on your farm when the farm is dry. Do not work in your farm when it is still wet. We don't work in wet fields, because the moment you work in a wet field, you will be the carrier of the disease actually. So ensure that you work in a very dry field and you don't work in wet conditions. And also, because sometimes I've said it can be in the plant debris in the soil, you can prevent that by mulching your field to prevent contamination from the soil to the plant. So, if possible, mulch your field. It will do you a lot of good, especially from contamination from the soil to the plant. And then, finally, if you already have the disease in your farm, the only solution I can give you for now, because you didn't prevent it well enough, spray with copper fungicides. Spray with copper fungicides. We said it is a fungal infection. Fungal infection can be controlled by copper fungicides. Make sure every fungicide that you are using contains copper in it. It will help you in the control of the disease. But if you can, I always say prevention is better than cure. If can you just maintain the preventive measures we are talking about and ensure the disease doesn't actually even get into your field, instead of you trying to control it after it is already in your field. So Sarah is putting up that image for one last time so that you can have a look at it, and then we will be getting into the next disease. But I will remind you again, keep sending me your feedback on Facebook at Our Farmers, on YouTube at Our Farmers Media, and I'll be sampling them on the second part of the show. So you can tell me what you know about bacterial sports, and then we'll be going on a break. But after the break, we'll be looking at anthracnose, and then we'll be starting on something about tutor absoluta. We said we're just going to give a little insight about it, and again, I'll be giving you the preventive and control measures. I'm not giving you like measures you can take after you've had the disease in your farm. So keep sending me your feedback on Facebook at Our Farmers, on YouTube at Our Farmers Media, and then we are going on a break. After the break, I'll be coming in with the quote of the day, some brilliant positive vibes that you don't want to be missing. So the quote of the day is coming in after the break, and then we'll be discussing about anthracnose and about tutor absoluta. So as we are on the break, keep telling me where you're watching the show from, and as well, give me any feedback you have and any questions you have. We are wrapping up the discussion about tomato farming today. Tomorrow, we are starting on something totally different, something else, a totally different discussion. So, if you had any comments or any remarks about what we've covered since Wednesday, let me know on Facebook at Our Farmers, on YouTube at Our Farmers Media. We'll take a short break. We'll be back in a few. And this is the one that's trying to shift towards.
Drip irrigation is a type of micro-irrigation system, or sometimes called trickle irrigation, that has potential to save water and nutrients by allowing water to drip slowly to the roots of plants, either from above the soil surface or buried below the surface from a system of small diameter plastic pipes fitted with outlets called emitters or drippers. The emitters slowly drip water into the soil at the root zone, therefore moisture levels are kept at optimum range, thus improving plant productivity. You can grow different crops using drip irrigation, be it tomatoes, spinach, skuma wiki, beetroots, celery, and many more crops will thrive using drip irrigation method. Drip irrigation is especially beneficial as it provides better plant health, less waste, reduced risk of diseases, money saving, weed control, and saves time. Drip irrigation is the most efficient water and nutrient delivery system for growing crops.
One of the most important activities on our farms is scouting. Why is it important? Because you get to know what is affecting your crops on a daily basis. Join me, Noah Nasiali Kadima, every Tuesday, 7:30 p.m., where we guide you to attain knowledge and grow profits.
Are you a farmer facing challenges in your farm? Pests, diseases, or even unsatisfactory produce? Worry no more. The solution is here. Join us every Tuesday on Diagnostic Tuesday, where we talk about various issues affecting agriculture and interacting with experts with knowledge in different sectors of agriculture to provide you with appropriate solutions, giving hope to farmers to attain better yields, to achieve financial success and development. Our farmers attain knowledge and grow profits.
As we quickly progress from agriculture to agribusiness, market is key. Join us every Wednesday as we bring to you Market Watch, a show that covers candid discussions regarding the state of the market. Tune in and let's turn our farms into businesses.
Melon is a trailing vine in the gourd family. The word melon can refer to either the plant or specifically to the fruit. Watermelon is a type of melon that is sweet and refreshing fruit. Watermelons can either be grown on home gardens for small-scale farmers or large-scale depending on the market demand. You can either transplant or plant watermelon seeds directly. For best performance, plant watermelons in hot, sunny locations with loose, fertile, well-drained soil that is rich in organic matter. It is best to plant watermelons on raised rows and ensure that the soil pH is between 6.0 to 6.8. On average, it takes around 3 months for a watermelon to grow from seed to mature fruit, with smaller varieties having shorter growing times than larger varieties of watermelon. Watermelon growing, if done rationally and on a scalable basis, can be a good source of income.
A very good morning to you. I hope you are doing well. Welcome back. This is the Breakfast Show, and I am your host, Lillian Thomas. I am glad that you are here watching again another continuation of what we've been discussing for the last 3 4 days, 4 days actually. This is the fifth day. We've been looking at tomato farming, and we've covered everything about tomato farming from the start, from production of tomatoes, the pests affecting tomatoes, and then we've been looking at the diseases affecting tomatoes since Friday. And we are wrapping up today. Just before we went on a break, we were looking at one disease, and we looked at the bacterial spot and speck. And right now, after the break, we'll be looking at anthracnose, and then we'll be looking at a little bit about tuta absoluta, which is a pest in tomatoes, and that's where we will be wrapping up the show today. And then tomorrow, we are getting into a totally different discussion. So I told you when we come back, I'd be sampling your feedback, but I don't think I have much of my feedback. But if you are willing to still send me your feedback, please do so on our Facebook page at Farmers on the comment section, and on YouTube at Farmers Media. And I'll be sampling them after we've said the quote of the day today. And then we'll be looking at your feedback before we get into the discussion. So our quote today, we always say this is the place of positive vibes. As you start your day, we want you to start your day on a very positive note. As you go out there, you become an amazing person and you can achieve absolutely amazing things. Our quote today says, good things come to those who wait, but better things come to those who go out and get them. Good things come to those who wait, but better things come to those who go out and get them. So there's a thing about it. So the first part of it is good things comes to those who wait. Waiting actually is an aspect of having patience. So good things comes to those who wait. It's a matter of patience. Like you always get better results if you are patient enough, if you are willing to let things take their time before they get to maturity, you are bound to get good things. You want to get good results. So everything, you have to be patient in everything. So I will give you an example. No, let's just give an illustration about your life. You have to be patient to get to the place you want to get to. If you need to be achieving something, you have to be very patient for you to be able to achieve what you need to achieve. So, patience is key. You have to be very patient. You don't wake up in one day and you are successful. No, it doesn't happen in a single day. It is something that takes time to build, to grow over time. So you have to be very patient for you to get to wherever you want to get to. And then we have the second aspect. So the quote is, good things come to those who wait, but better things come to those who go out and get them. So there's an aspect of you being patient and waiting to get to where you need to get. No shortcuts and no rush. Everything has to take its own time. We always say it is a process. You have to trust the process. It is a process. Sometimes it takes longer than usual. The timelines are different for different people. So it takes a lot of patience for you to wait to get where you need to get. If it's success, if it is achieving things, you have to wait. But better things come to those who go out and get them. So you might sit and then you are waiting for something to happen. Fine, it might happen. Well and good. But there's another aspect of being aggressive. Being aggressive, aggression is key, especially in the world that we live today. If you are always looking for the opportunities, you are more likely to make it as compared to someone who will sit and wait for the opportunity to come knocking at their door. They might wait, and their patience will actually reward them with that. Them waiting, and the opportunity will come to them. But there's another person who is actually going for the opportunity. Like you're taking the opportunity by the hand. You are actually looking for the opportunity. You get more chances in life. You get more opportunities in life, and everything will work out better for you. So just have that today in mind. Good things come to those who wait, but better things come to those who go out and get them. So there's no need for you to sit there and you're waiting for that opportunity to come, the grand opportunity to come for you. Can you just go out and get it? Whatever you've been trying to achieve, whatever you've been trying to get to doing, can you just take yourself out there and start? Get yourself out there, look for the opportunities, and you will achieve much more than a person who will be waiting for the opportunity to come to them. Okay, that is our quote of the day. Just have that in mind. And even as you progress through the week, remember, I've said aggression is key. Aggression is key. Aggression in a very good way. Make sure you are being aggressive in everything you are doing. Go out there and get what you need, look for the opportunities, and work on them. So I want us to get back into our discussion, and we're going to be looking at anthracnose. But before that, let me see if I have any comments. But you can as well be sending me your feedback on Facebook. We are at A Farmers. On YouTube, we are at A Farmers Media. And then I'll be sampling that when we come from the break. Let me see if I have any comments just before we get back into our discussion. Don't want to lock anyone out. So just a confirmation. Very quick, very quick. All right. All right. I can see a question here. A question here by one called Jose Wabalongo. Jose Wabalongo says, there is this thing called wilting. How can one get rid of this disease? All right. So Jose Wabalongo asks, there is this thing called wilting. How can one get rid of this disease? Thank you, Jose Wabalongo, for watching the show. Actually, let's start there. Thank you for watching the show, and thank you for your question. We covered these yesterday, but I'll be answering you after we are done. Let me just wrap up on anthracnose, and then I'll be answering your question immediately I'm done with that. I hope that is okay. I hope you'll stay tuned for that. So let me just finish up the discussion, and then I get back to answering your question. We did something on wilting yesterday. We did bacterial wilt. On Friday, we did on fusarium wilt. So yes, I'll be giving you an answer if you didn't watch the show. But as well, if you might have lacked on more information, after the show, you can just go back and watch all the other shows we've been having, especially since Wednesday, since we started talking about tomato farming. They are uploaded on our Facebook page, on A Farmers, on YouTube at A Farmers Media. And there's no show we've missed since Wednesday. So you'll get plenty of content on our shows. So you can just go back and watch our shows. From Wednesday, we started on tomato farming. On Thursday, we did something on pests affecting tomato farming. And then from Friday, we've been covering diseases affecting tomato farming. But also, let me just tell you, if you have any other questions or any other comments, send them on our page on Facebook. Write them on the comment section on A Farmers. And on YouTube, we are at A Farmers Media. So I want us to get back into our discussion again. So we've discussed something about bacterial spot. I want us to look at anthracnose, and then we get to answering Jose Wabalongo's question. And then we'll be wrapping up with a little insight about Tuta absoluta, or rather the tomato leaf miner, as it is commonly known. That is where we will be wrapping up our discussion today. We don't want to have a very lengthy discussion today. So anthracnose is a disease that affects the tomato fruits mostly, and it actually affects overripe tomato fruits, or rather weak fruits. It affects overripe tomato fruits, or rather weak fruits. It is actually very high, especially in temperatures between 21 degrees Celsius and 30 degrees Celsius, and it is favored by high humidity in the environment. So this disease actually appears by forming fruit spots on the tomato fruit. It forms spots on the tomato fruit, and actually the spots appear to be sunken. In some points, it actually covers the whole fruit and might cause the fruit to drop. So remember, it affects weak and overripe tomato fruits. When it affects them, it forms spots on the fruit, and the spots are actually sunken. In other times, it can actually cover the whole fruit, and when it does, it causes fruit drop. So your fruit just drops down. You can't harvest your fruit. The affected fruit usually, when anthracnose affects your fruit, usually it causes drying of the fruit. It causes your fruit to dry and it becomes black. So Sarah will be putting up an image for you on the screen. You can just look at it and be able to identify this particular disease that I am talking about right here. So that is the anthracnose disease I'm talking about. Okay, so you can just have a look at it very well. Okay, all right. If you've seen it, that is good. So that's just it about anthracnose. It is very short like that. It has nothing much. It affects overripe or weak fruits. Remember, overripe fruits is because you've left them on the field way past harvesting time. For the weak fruits, you can only get weak fruits, especially if you are either using diseased seeds or maybe your nutrient application is not enough. So we get into the control measures, and remember I said the control measures that I am giving you here are more of the preventive control measures. So it's something that you need to be doing before you actually have this disease. So it does more of, it helps you not to get the disease in your farm. So the first thing you need to do is to use a certified disease-free seeds. Remember, I've said you can actually be using these seeds that are diseased and make you to have anthracnose on your fruits. You use bad seeds and you have very weak fruits at the end of the period. At the end of the period, if you have weak fruits, they can actually be affected or attacked by anthracnose. So make sure you're using certified disease-free seeds. If you also have resistant varieties that you can be using, make sure you are using them. As at now, right here in Kenya, I don't know a resistant variety. I don't know any variety that is resistant to anthracnose, but if you have varieties that are resistant to anthracnose in your country or wherever you're watching from and you know them, you can actually write them on our comment section. Maybe someone will find the information to be useful. Okay? Practice crop rotation in your farm. We've talked about crop rotation since I think we started talking about pests in tomato farming. We've talked about crop rotation continuously. You just have to rotate your crops. And we said you can only rotate Solanaceae crops with either the brassicas, and I gave you examples of brassicas. The brassicas I said are vegetables such as cabbages, spinach, or kales. Or rather, you can actually crop rotate using legumes. For legumes, you can use groundnuts, you can use beans, you can use green grams. You have a variety of things to be chosen from, but make sure you are not planting another Solanaceae crop after another one. And I mentioned for you the Solanaceae crops. I said they include tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, the nightshade, so African nightshade or black nightshade, and also the bell pepper, commonly known as pili pili hoho in Kenya or Tanzania. These are all Solanaceae crops. Once you've harvested them, make sure the other crop you are planting is not in the same family. And if you have a plant that is actually infected in your farm, make sure you are destroying it. You get rid of it, like destroy it completely from your farm. It is very, very important that you do. I want to go back and look at I want to answer his question. I'm trying to find the question that has been asked by Jose Wabalongo. Jose Wabalongo asked something about what is this thing called wilting and how do you control wilting. So for wilting, we have several types. So yesterday we talked about bacterial wilt in our show. And we said bacterial wilt, you can always identify it by looking at the plant. You find that your plant is actually wilting, but it's still green. And it was different from fusarium wilt that we looked at on Friday. So we said for bacterial wilt, you find your plant is wilting and dying without even changing color. It doesn't turn yellow, it still remains green. But you can tell the difference. You can tell it's a wilting problem when you look at your plant. After your plant, when you find your plant is wilting and you take a good look at your plant, you find that at the stem of that particular plant, at the base part of the stem. So yesterday, I remember again, I was using this pen to illustrate to you. So when you look at your plant, this is the stem of the plant. You find like at the base, like at the lower part of the stem appears darker. It appears darker. It doesn't look as the usual green. It appears darker and it looks like it has water inside. So it has a water soaked appearance and it looks darker. And when you cut that part of the stem, actually, you find it produces a certain substance, and it is usually white, gray, or yellow in color. And this disease, especially in high temperatures, it actually kills most of your crops. So for the tomatoes at 32 degrees, you find your plants are dying. Like that is the end. Your plant collapses. At 32 degrees Celsius, your plant is done. And I said the control measures. Remove diseased parts. Like the diseased plants, if you find you have a certain plant in your farm that is diseased, actually destroy it completely. We'll say either you ban or get rid of it from your shamba. Long-term crop rotation. Long-term crop rotation. Make sure you are rotating your crops. And for long-term crop rotation, I remember yesterday when I was talking about it, I said you can actually rotate your crops 5 to 7 years. Make sure for 5 to 7 years you don't have any Solanaceae crop in your farm. And I will repeat again the Solanaceae crops: the eggplants, the tomatoes, the potatoes, the bell peppers, or rather green peppers, red peppers, yellow peppers, whatever way you can identify them. In Kenya, we call them pili pili hoho. That is what we mean. Make sure you don't have any of them in your farm for like 5 to 7 years, because you see, this is a disease that is soil-borne. In your soil, it is soil-borne, and then it affects your crops. If you rotate the crops, you actually reduce its cycle because it cannot affect other crops, so it kind of vanishes, it diminishes away. So 5 to 7 years crop rotation will do you some good. But Jose Wabalongo, if you are in Kenya, I would advise that you plant resistant varieties. I would advise that you plant resistant varieties, and the resistant varieties that we have in Kenya are Fortune Maker, the Kentom variety, and the Taiwan F1. Fortune Maker, Kentom variety, and Taiwan F1. I hope that is clear. I hope that is clear. If you are in Kenya, just plant using resistant varieties. And the resistant varieties we have in Kenya are the Fortune Maker, Taiwan F1, and Fortune Maker, Taiwan F1, and the Kentom variety. If that is good for you, so depends on what kind of wilt you are having in your soil, in your plants actually. So I've said bacterial wilts, the plant wilts, while the plant, it is still green. So for you to identify, also we have another type of wilt. We have the fusarium wilt. The fusarium wilt, actually it's also caused by cell pathogens, and it enters via the root tube or through wounds in the soil. It enters via the root tube or through wounds in the soil. It actually grows in the plant transport system, So it ends up affecting the water and nutrient absorption. That is why your plant wilts, because it grows in the transport system. The transport system starts from the roots going upwards through the stem. So it grows inside. The moment it grows inside, absorption of water and nutrients become a problem, and that is why your plants wilt. But for this particular disease, for fusarium wilt, the plant wilts, and actually the plant turns yellow before wilting. So that's the difference between fusarium wilt and bacterial wilt. For fusarium wilt, the plant turns to yellow before it wilts. For bacterial wilt, the plant wilts while it is still green. If you do cut the stem of fusarium wilt disease, you actually find the stem to be looking either brown or red in color. Again, the control measures are more or less the same. Crop rotation, 5 to 7 years. That will do you some good crop rotation with either crops in the Brassica family or with crops with legume crops. Again, Brassica crops are either cabbages, spinach, kales. I think that is a good number of them to do. The legumes, you can always use beans, groundnuts, green grams. They will do you some good. For this particular disease, you find the pH actually accelerates it, but it is lower in the neutral pH. So ensure you get your pH levels to 6.5 to 7. And you can always do that by doing a soil test in your farm. Find the pH of your soil. The moment you do find the pH of your soil, the expert you're working with will help you establish ways to adjust your pH, to get the neutral pH, which is 6.5 to 7. If you have an affected plant, get rid of it, destroy it, either by burning or remove it completely from your farm. Remember, we said it either gets into the plant via the root system or through wounds in the root. So it's either through absorption through the root tip or via wounds in the root system. When you are working in your farm, avoid damaging your plants as you work. Be very careful when you're working in your farm. Make sure you are not affecting your plants. You're not damaging your plants. You're not harming your plants in any way as you work in your plants. And every time you get out of the field, because you will transfer the disease from one point of the farm to the other since it is soil-borne, make sure you are cleaning your farm equipment. Make sure you are cleaning your farm equipment. Clean, disinfect, actually even using bleach, better. And then we also have resistant varieties right here in Kenya that you can grow that are resistant to fusarium wilt. You can grow the fortune maker. So the fortune maker is resistant to fusarium wilt and to bacterial wilt. So if you grow it, you have conquered all these types of wilt. You can also grow the Rio Grande variety, or grow the Tengeru 97 variety, or grow the Roma VFN variety. Okay? I hope that is covered about fusarium wilt and about bacterial wilt. So I don't know, maybe Jose Wabalongo, if you're still watching, you can let us know what are the signs and symptoms that you have in your farm, because that will give us a little bit of insight of what you're dealing with, and we can just handle it from there. So if you're watching, just let us know the signs that you have in your farm that made you conclude that is wilting. And also we have the tomato spotted wilt virus. So I will mention for you everything that I know mentioning wilt, so that you can identify what you really have in your farm. So for fusarium wilt, I've told you your plant is wilting after it has turned yellow. For bacterial wilt, your plant wilts when it's still green. And for both, I have given you the preventive measures. For bacterial wilt, I have told you, if possible, you can grow resistant varieties actually. And for bacterial wilt, I told you to grow Kentom variety, Taiwan F1, or the fortune maker. For the fusarium variety, for fusarium wilt, actually, you can grow other resistant varieties. And I also mentioned the fortune maker again. Tengeru 97, and the Rio Grande variety. So we also have another disease called tomato spotted wilt virus, and we said it is spread by thrips. If you remember our discussion on Thursday, we discussed about pests, and we mentioned thrips as one of them. They're very two small insects. So the tomato spotted wilt virus is spread by thrips, and it affects mostly plants in the Solanaceae family. So follow in the discussion and get to know the Solanaceae plants that we have. It causes dark brown spots on our leaves, and then they become enlarged and become patches. Most probably, it causes stunted growth in your tomato plant. And also, you can actually identify it in your fruits because it causes light green rings on immature fruits and causes brown rings on ripe fruits. It also causes fruit deformation. And the control measures are the same again. Control your weeds, remove infected plants, and then for thrips, you can always trap them using sticky traps. The sticky traps helps in controlling thrips that cause this particular disease. And we said, make sure you are avoiding excess nitrogen fertilizer application. It will help you in having less thrips in your farm. And the resistant varieties that I said for this particular disease, I said star 9006 and star 9008. I hope I have answered your question, Jose Wabalongo. If you have any other questions, you can just write them again on our comment section, and we will see if we can answer you before we finish the show. Okay, so we're going to be taking a very short break, but after the break we will be looking at a little bit about tuta absoluta, and that's where we will be wrapping up our discussion about tomato farming. So make sure you're staying tuned in for that. Don't go anywhere, but we're taking a short break. We'll be back in a few.
Celery is a marshland plant that comes from the same family as carrots and parsley. It has long, firm and pale green fibrous stalks and grows in bunches of approximately 8 to 10 centimeters. The stalks taper into leaves at the top. When planting celery, it's best to ensure that the soil is enriched with compost and with a soil pH of between 5.8 to 6.8. It is also important for celery to grow in moisture-retentive soil. Lastly but not the least, select a site that receives full and direct sunlight. Celery needs about 130 to 140 days to mature between seedling and harvest. Growing celery is generally considered to be an ultimate vegetable gardening challenge. It's easy to grow, but has very specific needs.
A very good morning to you once again. Welcome back. This is the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Lillian Thomas. I hope you are well. If you're just joining me right now, we've been having a discussion about diseases affecting tomato farming. We've been looking at that since Friday. And today we're wrapping up, and we've just wrapped up. Just before we went on the break, we wrapped up on the discussion about bacterial spots and anthracnose, and we were also looking at some questions. And we tried answering a question to one Jose Wabalongo. Now, I want us to get back into our discussion, but before we do that, we are going to be discussing about someone had asked me something about Tuta absoluta, a certain pest that we were actually looking at when we talked about the pest and diseases. It is commonly referred to as tomato leaf miner, and I thought it would be wise if I just did a repeat of that. Maybe someone might be finding it very important that they get this information. So I'll be doing a repetition of a little bit of tomato leaf miner. That is what we'll be discussing at this last part of the show. And I am glad that you guys are watching the show. So I have, want to say someone who's commented it. I have Tony Hillary Tony Star telling me he is watching. Thank you so much, Tony, for watching the show. We already covered the discussion about bacterial spots, a question you had asked about on Thursday. I hope you were answered. And if you were not, you can still write to us and we will see what other information we can be giving to you. So thank you so much, Tony, for watching the show. And Jose Wabalongo, we've also answered your questions. So I hope you've been answered as you wanted, as you needed. You've gotten the information you needed. If not, also get back to us. We will actually be looking at that and we'll see what other information we can be giving you from right here. Because right here at Our Farmers, we aim at helping you attain knowledge so that you can grow your profits. And remember, this is the home of the African farmer. We like to tell your story. So if you have a story that you would like us to tell, we will be more than glad to do so. So just keep writing on our page on Facebook. We are at Our Farmers. On YouTube, we are at Our Farmers Media. So as you write on our comment section, make sure you are also following our pages on Facebook and on YouTube. You are subscribing to our page as well. Hit the notification bell and we will be more than glad to have you in our shows each and every single day. I will remind you the quote that we had as the quote of the day. The quote of the day today is: good things come to those who wait, but better things come to those who go out and get them. Good things come to those who wait, but better things come to those who go out and get them. We already elaborated a little bit about that. So if you missed that, you can just go back a little bit and listen to the show Kidogo. You will just get what we interpreted it for. But just have it in mind. Good things come to those who wait, but better things come to those who go out and get them. So that has been our quote of the day. So I want to look at a little bit, just a little bit about absoluta, about tuta absoluta. So tuta absoluta, it is also more commonly known as the tomato leaf miner. The tomato leaf miner. It is a pest that affects most of the Solanaceae crops, but its effect is more especially in the tomatoes. So it is a new pest. It is not a pest that has been with us for a very long period. And it originated from South America. Yes, Peru. Peru is in South America. So it originated from South America. It spread Europe, Asia, Africa. We have it in Africa. Actually, it was seen for the first time in Africa in 2009 when it first appeared in Tunisia. And then in 2010, it was in Sudan. Ethiopia, it appeared in around 2012. In Senegal, we had it in 2013, and then we had it in 2014 in Kenya and Tanzania, and it eventually gets to Uganda in 2015. So it is not a pest that has been with us for so long. So we have very little research on it, very little information about it. A lot of research is being done on it. I actually know one organization, ISIPE. ISIPE is actually working on it. So we hope with time we actually get remedies for this particular pest. We actually get even resistant varieties that we can be growing to control these particular pests. So my director will be putting up an image that you can look at and see if you can identify it. It will give you more insight of what we are talking about. So Sarah can put that up for you. A little bit about these particular pests. It is actually a moth. It is a type of a moth. So it goes through all this stage. It is very active, especially in the larva stage. So the larva stage is a caterpillar looking like stage. Yes, it is a caterpillar looking like pest. So you can just look at it. It is on the screen. And so funny facts about these pests. it actually has a life cycle of 30 to 35 days. So that is one one month, 1 month and some days, 1 month to 1 month and some days, and its cycle is done. Like imekufa, that is it. It is done. So you find that 30 to 35 days, you find that if we are having them reproducing and they are dying after 30 to 35 days, in a year, we are bound to be having 10 to 12 generations of these particular pests from one pest. You get it? So you have like 10 to 12 generations in a year, which is a lot. And the bad thing about this particular pest, a female can lay up to 250 to 300 eggs. One female can lay up to 250 to 300 eggs on the host plant, which is also a lot. The reproduction rate is very high, and the eggs are usually small. They have a cylinder-like appearance, and they are white to yellow. They are small, are look white to yellow, and they have a cylinder-like appearance. So whenever you are pest scouting in your farm, these are the things you are looking out for. Look at the shape of the eggs you have on your plant. Like if an insect has laid eggs on your plant, look at the shape of the eggs. Look at the color of the eggs. They will help you identify what particular pest you have in your farm. After the eggs have been harvested, I told you these pest has a very short life cycle. Pop, pop, and it is gone. After the eggs have been harvested, have been laid, they are actually hatched in 4 to 6 days. So in less than a week, if you've seen eggs on your tomato plant, in less than a week, these eggs will be hatched. So if it laid 250 to 300 eggs on your plant, and then in less than a week they are hatched, you have around 300 tomato leaf miners in your farm. So you find that the multiplication rate is quite high. Its reproduction rate is quite high. So if you find a chance of seeing these particular pests, you can always identify it. For some, it actually looks, for some, it is cream in color and has a dark head. It usually has a darker head as compared to its body. And you find it lays its eggs either on the leaf surface or in the soil. So look at even the soil around your tomato plant and see if you can actually see signs of these particular pests, especially in the larva stage, in the pupa stage. If you can control it at that stage, better before it actually gets into your crop. So the most destructive stage is the larva stage. The larva stage is now the caterpillar part, the caterpillar looking part, and it actually feeds on the leaf layers and it causes mines like nikama mabondi, if I can say something of the sort. That's why we call it the tomato leaf miner. It causes things that look like mines. That's why we call it the tomato leaf miner. At some point, at the larva stage, it can actually get into your stem and even get into your fruits if you have fruits already. So the bad thing about this disease, it is so hard to control it. Once it is in your farm, it is so hard to control it because it has a very fast reproductive rate and it has a very short life cycle. The life cycle is very short, the reproduction rate is very high. And then when the adults that are the moths, they are actually nocturnal. They operate at night. So you will never see them. You will never see them, and they will always be affecting your plant. And also at the larva stage, you find at the stage where it is looking like a caterpillar, that is the larva stage. It is usually living inside the plant parts. So you also don't see it as easily. You actually only see the effects on your plant. So be very, that's why we always advocate for regular pest scouting. Look out for all these signs. If your tomatoes have things looking like mines on the edges, on the surfaces, if you have the eggs being laid on your tomato plant, look out for all these signs. when they actually feed on your leaf, they leave gray lines on your leaf. So you look at your leaf, it looks gray, like it has gray lines, and they appear like they are tunnel shaped. It's like they are tunnel shaped gray lines on your leaf. So that's how you can be able to identify its effect on your crops, and it actually causes the leaves to drop prematurely. Yes, and if you drop your leaves, less photosynthesis, less production, it can actually cause almost 100% loss in your farm if you are not careful enough. So we don't have a very steady control measure for it because it is a very new pest and research is still being done on it. But I said we can always look at the preventive control measures that you can actually be practicing to ensure that you don't have these pests even getting into your farm. Okay? So we start with crop rotation and intercropping. We've said it majorly affects crops in the Solanaceae crops. If you find it in your crop, rotate your crops for the next seasons. If you can just do a long-term crop rotation solution, we don't want to do a short-term crop rotation solution. So crop rotation will help break the cycle of this particular pest, because if you plant a brassica and it doesn't affect the brassicas, it won't have anything to feed on. So it will not survive. It will reduce. So crop rotation to help in controlling the production and the cycle of these particular pests. And if you have any other, you remember the thing I told you about weeds? And I said a weed is any crop growing where it is not supposed to be growing. So if you are growing tomatoes and you have any other crop from the Solanaceae crop family actually growing in your field, either the potatoes, the eggplants, or even the sweet pepper, the green pepper, more so, or as you refer to it as pili pili hoho. If you have any of them growing in your farm, they can harbor these particular pests. They can actually be giving room for these particular pests to survive. If you have any of them growing apart from your tomatoes, make sure you are destroying them and you are removing them from your farm. And any other diseased plant, remove it and destroy it from your farm. But you can always trap the leaf miner using pheromone traps. So if you can actually purchase them, just purchase them and put them in your farm, they will help in trapping the leaf miners. Especially they actually trap the male leaf miner. And if you don't have a male leaf miner, the reproduction is quite low. So that is one way of controlling them. You can use the pheromone traps to control them. Make sure your field is clean, like weed free, very clean. Sanitation in your field has to be very high. So you destroy any weeds you have in your farm. Destroy any weeds, destroy any dying crops you have in your farm. And because it can always be harbored in the plant debris we have in our farm, make sure you destroy every crop debris after harvesting. Like the moment you're done harvesting your tomato fruits, or rather, whatever crop you were harvesting initially, maybe in the Solanaceae family, either it is the potatoes, whenever you are done harvesting, destroy the remaining crop refuse. Destroy the remaining crop refuse. Don't leave it in your farm. It can be containing the pests, and it will actually leave the pest in your farm and you will have it in your farm. But if you already have it in your farm, you can try using biopesticides, and you can be spraying either the neem spray, the neem insecticide, or apply the neem soap. It can actually work. So if you already have it in your farm, try using biopesticides. They have proven to be effective, but so good so far. We don't have a specific control thing that you can use. You just have to, and then you see, for especially if you have an insect that has a very short life cycle and then reproduces very fast, you find that with time they actually get resistant to the pesticides you apply. So it is more effective if you can use IPM methods to control them as compared to using pesticides in your field. IPM methods are more effective. And actually, that is what ECP is advocating for right now. If you can use IPM methods to control them, so from field sanitation, crop rotation, you trap using the traps, like these methods are more effective as compared to using pesticides because they actually get resistant to using pesticides. And if you guys have this particular pest in your region, it is advisable when you decide you're spraying, to say you're using the biopesticides, either BT or NIM. If you are spraying, it is advisable that you do it on the same day, like at the same time, once, so that you reduce it from actually moving from one farm to the other farm where it has not been controlled. Okay, yes, if you are controlling it, just do it together, like it is unity. Farmers work in unity. If you are controlling it in your area, do it around the same time, so that it has nowhere else to go. It finds everywhere it is being controlled, it actually will vanish. So do it around the same place. And another plea to maybe members in the local authorities, you can actually put quarantine measures if you find you are being brought for tomatoes that are already infested by these plants. You can prevent them from getting into your region so that you don't have this particular pest getting into your region. So that is it from me about tutor absoluta. That is all I had to say about tutor absoluta. I don't have anything else to tell you about tutor absoluta. More research is being done about it, but because someone actually requested for information about it, that is what we've had. So since Wednesday, we've been covering tomato farming. If you missed any of our shows on tomato, on Wednesday we started on tomato production. On Thursday, we looked at pests in tomato. On Friday till today, we've been looking at the diseases in tomatoes. I hope it has been informative to you. It has been educative, but that is where we are wrapping up our discussion about tomato farming. So tomorrow we start on a completely different topic, completely different crop if we are dealing with a crop. But tomorrow we'll be taking a break from crop production, so we will be having a very general topic. Be sure to join me here again. But if you missed any of the shows we've been having about tomato farming since Wednesday, make sure to watch them on our page on Facebook at Our Farmers. On YouTube, we are at Our Farmers Media. This is where we are wrapping up that discussion. But before I conclude the discussion, so I want to do for you the COVID updates. We've been having COVID for more than a whole year. Actually, right now in Kenya, we have a lockdown in 5 counties, namely Machakos, Nairobi, Kajiado, Kiambu, and Nakuru. So the COVID numbers we have are still high, but we are trying to control them. So I'll give you the updates as at yesterday. As at yesterday, we had 194 positive cases out of a sample size of 1,779 cases. So Sarah will be putting up that on the screen. And then the positive percentage rate, it is at 10.9%. And then we have the recoveries at 248 and the deaths are at 21. Those are the COVID numbers as at yesterday right here in Kenya. So as we are going out here, you can see the positivity rate is still quite high. Make sure you're putting on your mask. It is covering your nose and your mouth. And make sure you are washing your hands as regularly as you can. If you can actually sanitize, that is good. That will be well. And if possible, maintain social distance whenever you are in public. 1.5 meters. If you have no other business going outside to do, you can always stay indoors. It has been a good discussion right here with you people. And I am appreciative that you've been watching the show. We are going to conclude the show right here, but I'll be here tomorrow again at 8:30 a.m. We're really sorry today, by the way, we started very, very late, and I might Some people might be actually be disappointed, but we had a little bit of technical challenges with our sound in the studio, but it has been sorted. So tomorrow we are resuming at the normal time. 8:30, I'll be here for another discussion with you. So make sure you stay tuned in for that. But for the rest of the day, we still have programs coming up. We have the mid-morning show coming up at around 11:30, and then we'll be having the Farm Drive show coming in at 3 p.m. So John Conrad Kibe at 3 p.m. for the Farm Drive show. A very interesting discussion he'll be having right here. Make sure you don't miss it. And then I'll be joining you again tomorrow at 8:30 o'clock. Make sure you stay tuned in for that. As you go out here, remember the quote we had today. Good things come to those who wait, but better things come to those who go out and get them. Go out and get what you need. Go out and get what you need. Go out and make things happen. Go out and look for those opportunities. Go out and achieve whatever you need to be achieving. Make sure you are being kind to everyone you meet on your way. You never know what people are battling outside here. So make sure you're being kind to everyone you meet on your way. It costs nothing to be kind. It costs nothing to be kind. So make sure you are being kind. And if you can make a person smile for today, one single act you can do that can make a person smile for today, make sure you are as well doing it. Until tomorrow, it is goodbye from me. Have a good day.